think we'll get started. Introduce myself and Brent. My name is Scott Sandusky. I'm a product manager at Esri and work with not only Navigator but our other routing products. Brent, you want to introduce yourself?
My name is Brent Pierce. I'm the product owner of Navigator and been working with Scott for how long now? When did we get our first release out, Navigator?
It's been 2 years.
Yeah, 2 years. Flies by. Time flies when you're having fun with Mr. Sandusky. But thanks for coming today. I know it's been a long conference for you guys. So, if we want to open it up to questions just straight away, if you have a question, fire your hand up throughout the presentation, whether I'm demoing or Scott's giving the slides. We can kind of make this a little bit back and forth. I think that'd be good.
Exactly. Okay, let's jump right in. So what is Navigator? Here are the basics. Get your field workforce where they need to be. So the things about Navigator that make it a little bit different is that it works in a disconnected environment. It's designed to be disconnected. That's a little bit different than other Esri apps traditionally that are designed to work online and then they can work offline. Navigator works offline by design. And if you want to work online, that's fine too. Custom data. We've done a lot of work within the last year to really make it easier for you to use your organization's authoritative GIS data. So that means that you can make custom navigation maps that live locally on the device with your own assets, with your own routing data, and with your own maps that you want to display. So that routing piece is important too. Not only can you just search and visualize your maps, but you can actually use streets that you maintain. So for example, service drives, dirt roads, things like this. And then the integration piece. So Navigator works with other apps, Collector, Workforce, Survey. It's fully integrated. So these apps really work together and each of them does a unique thing specifically and they're designed to support workflows. We'll even go into how you can integrate Navigator with your own custom apps or back office integration. Since about this time last year, we've released Android on Final. So when Navigator was first introduced, it was available on iOS and then Android beta. We're now Android Final, and as well, it's easier to create custom maps. So we've done a lot of work outside of Navigator to support these workflows. That means within ArcGIS Pro, you can create these custom navigation maps. There's documentation, there's tutorials, there's videos, there's resources that show you how to do this. And multi-stop optimization. So that's another improvement that we made as far as Brent will go in a little bit later to how you can integrate with your own custom apps through what we call app links or URL schemes. There's a couple ways that couple terms that you can use to describe this behavior, but it's basically sending stops to Navigator and you can now choose the optimization parameter in there. So when you get Navigator, it comes with two things basically. So that's a way of thinking about it. It comes with the app. So download the app either from the iOS store or you can get it from Google Play. Doesn't matter, either one. If you have one login, you can use the app in either places. And then also you get access to Esri's library of navigation maps. So in ArcGIS Online, there's maps at a global scale, at the country level, at the region level, and at the state level. So if you just operate within a state, you're just going to want to download and use that one state map offline. If your organization works across boundaries, you can download a regional map or a country map. Globally, we almost have global coverage. We're releasing Latin America, our last region, here within the next couple weeks. And you'll also notice, there's a hole there with China and South Korea, but that's no different than other data issues where China can't have data exported. So nothing unique to Navigator there. So I had mentioned that you can create a custom Navigator map, and that's a GIS analyst's job. As a GIS analyst, I take my organization's assets, and I take my organization's dirt roads, leased roads, those street segments, maybe they're driveways, that aren't in the commercial roads like the HERE data or the TomTom data. And there's a process, there's a set of tools that you go for creating a network with a network data set, creating your geocoding, your searching capability with the geocoding functionality, and just setting up your base map. And that's just out of the box functionality of ArcGIS Pro. And these are the three components that make up a Navigator map. So if you have this data and you have those three components, there's nothing from stopping you from creating your custom navigation map on that same data that you're used to using in your other departments, other divisions. The file format is a mobile map package. It's called a MMPK file extension. You can kind of think of it as a container for these three capabilities. Within Pro, you're going to run this geoprocessing tool called Create Mobile Map Package, and it simply packages up that data, that map, into this one file format. And then that workflow actually looks like this. Oh yes, please, you have a question.
You guys brought it up, okay. And we have clients that have this issue. Is there tools in ArcPro that I haven't used ArcPro yet, that would help you take alleys and dirtways and get them into your map and split streets properly and address ranges and all those kinds of things?
Sure, so the question is, are there tools in ArcGIS Pro that will help you do street editing to model the snapping and street segmentation behavior, splitting roads? And the answer is yes. And that's some of the things and enhancements that we've been working on within the last year within ArcGIS Pro. There are editing rules and behavior that actually do that logic for you. And so if, getting into the weeds of a network data set, you have street segments, you have junctions, and if you add a new street that connects to that existing street, you need to drop a vertex and have a junction there or split it, and those types of rules and behaviors are managed through the ArcGIS Pro editing behavior. Yeah. You have another question? What is this package?
Yes.
Yeah, so within ArcGIS Pro, you remember those three capabilities, those three things of a navigation map: searching, routing, and geocoding. You run the Create Mobile Map Package tool, and it creates a package. That's what this little can is supposed to represent, a physical package, that MMPK file. And then there's another geoprocess share package, and you share it to your org, whether it's online or on-prem. And then when your Navigator users log into their app, they see that package, that map, mobile map package that you shared with your org, and they just download it and it's there for them to use. Does that answer your question? Yeah.
So is the base data that's available at federal, regional and state level, is that available to you in Pro? Because you're going to need to split those roads and whatnot to be able to accommodate your custom segments.
Right. So I'm trying to rephrase your question if I understand it correctly, and that's what data do I need access to create a custom navigation map as a GIS analyst? And the answer to that is you do need a license to use that content in desktop, and that's the StreetMap Premium license. So or you could provide 100% your own data. I don't think we have a slide on this, but there's basically three models for custom navigation maps. That's enhance the Esri navigation map, bring 100% your own data, or maybe two, or use that provided maps. Yep.
The fact that Navigator supports mobile package is the quite basic.
Okay, so the question is, knowing that Navigator supports the mobile map package, Does that mean that Navigator is built on Quartz framework? Brent, do you want to take that?
Yeah, it's there's 82% Quartz in Navigator. No, I'm just joking with you. Yeah, so Navigator was built on Quartz. It's one of the it's actually our first native app out of our app offerings to be built on top of the Quartz framework. And a lot of the work we did with Navigator and we put into Quartz for mobile map package support was really started by the Navigator project itself. And then we're trying to kind of apply those lessons learned to other apps that will start supporting mobile map packages like Explorer and Collector and others. So yeah, it's built on Quartz, and yeah, it's the first app we had built on Quartz, and that's where all our apps are going. So we're currently migrating all our apps over to Quartz right now. That's a good question, though.
Any other questions?
Just briefly, talk about that dash line and the copy there. Is that only available for Android or iOS as well?
Yeah, so this copy, this side load, it's available on both Android and iOS. If you do iOS, I believe you have to, the only way, Brent, maybe you want to have a few words on that?
Yeah, so side loading is really just a generic term for loading files onto your mobile device through a different kind of application. So in iTunes, in Apple, in the iOS world, it's typically done through iTunes. There's a couple third-party apps, but iTunes is basically all you need, which is free on a Mac or a Windows machine. And then Android has a whole host of different apps. The one I use most often is Android File Transfer. But basics, same idea. You know, it's a MMPK on your file system, and you drag and drop it into the appropriate folder that the app hosts, and then the app just picks it up the next time you open it. This is typically a lot quicker than pulling it over the air, over Wi-Fi. So that's why people do it typically.
It's good. I like the questions. Anybody else? Okay, let's just jump in. I'm going to show you what this thing looks like if you haven't seen it already. Okay, so here's Navigator. I opened up the app, and I have a map loaded in here. This happens to be a map that I did enhance as a GIS analyst in the back office. And you'll see here what I'm talking about. What kind of enhancements did I make to this map? Well, let's zoom in here to my location, and you'll see that not only do I have the standard base map, but I also see these assets. These happen to be well locations. These are oil wells. And not only can I view these visually, but I can search for them. So I'm going to go ahead and type in an asset ID. And this is the well location that I'm interested in. So I'm going to go ahead and add that, stop.
But Scott, you're in airplane mode.
I am in airplane mode, Brent.
Working?
I'm working all offline. Remember, I'm in Montana.
Oh, right.
I'm in the boonies, and I need to work in a disconnected environment. So I have my route. I now know where I need to go. But I'm going to take it one extra step further than that, and I'm not in an F-150 or a Honda Civic. I'm riding and driving a drill rig route, and basically what this does is it considers commercial vehicle properties that I, as a GIS analyst, have set up into my navigation map. So in this case, I'm moving an actual rig on the back of my truck, and this thing has a height restriction and a weight restriction that I don't want to take out a bridge with. So I'm going to go ahead and change that travel mode, and we'll see how my route is actually dynamically changed for me. So it's going to do that, consider those map settings that I've defined for it. So not only can you do one route at one stop at a time with Navigator, but you can do a multi-stop route. So I'm going to go ahead, maybe I need to stop at Home Depot. And you'll see here I have a point of interest search result, and I can flip through the different Home Depots. I'm going to go ahead, choose to add this one to my route. And not only can I search points of interest, but I can also search addresses. So of course, any navigation app needs to search for addresses.
So this is kind of a subtle point, but in this mobile map package, what Scott has done is he's included a POI, like a USA address locator, as well as configured search on that operational layer. So we're not only searching just for the features, but we're also searching common points of interest, which you also get. You get that through StreetMap Premium?
You do get that with StreetMap Premium. So it's a hybrid approach.
Yeah.
And just something worth pointing out is as I search, these suggestions are enabled. So for me, I have fat fingers typing. I always misspell something, but I just put something in here, and now I can actually see which address I want to add. And the point is, it is likely to reduce the chance of error when typing in an address manually. Do you have a question?
Yeah, so similar to Trek 2 there, can you just arbitrarily do a lat long if you've got on this first campsite that you've got to get to, not necessarily a direct route to it?
Yes. So we can search by lat longs, can we?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Lat long.
What if you didn't know the lat long?
So if you didn't know the lat long, so here I built up this stop list, and let's say that there was a nice food truck over here I knew. Let me add a stop. And I can go ahead and just drop a pen. So that's another way to add a stop to the app. If you didn't know the lat long. If you did know the lat long, you could add a stop and type the lat long in there.
Yeah, so we support lat long. We support a couple other methodology for specifying a different coordinate system or a different coordinate. But coming in the next release of Navigator, we're kind of bumping that up to some of the more kind of esoteric coordinate references. But you can definitely type that in into the search field, and it'll find it on your map.
And could you share that with another worker, be it workforce or something else, if you wanted them to come find you?
Can you repeat the question?
That's a good question. You can.
So the question was, can you share it with Workforce and other apps?
Yeah, and I'll be showing kind of integration in my demo, integration between Workforce and Navigator and that kind of stuff. But as far as sharing a lat long right now, that's more of an Explorer functionality that we're working on right now. So I can't do it in Explorer in the beta, but we want the ability to just share kind of your current location via either text message or email or something like that. And then when you get that location, maybe you can kind of use it in an app like Navigator to go visit that person. Yeah, question up here.
Question. If your GIS technician is running really behind on adding in your road network, what's the limitation for how close you have to be to the existing network to be able for it to navigate? Is it always going to be just the absolute most closest road, even if it's miles away, or is there some distance that your point has to be to the network before it will actually return a valid stop?
Right. Yeah, there is some tolerance. Do you remember what the tolerance was there?
So I think what you're asking is how close does this stop location have to be to the actual street segment before it will actually get placed on as a stop along that street segment? Is that what?
Yeah. Is there a limit where it will not be registered as a valid stop because it is not close enough to
It's that tolerance or that setting. It's pretty extreme. I mean, let me.
10 miles.
10 miles.
I mean, 10 miles.
I'll follow up with you afterwards to give you an exact number, but I don't think I've ever been able to drop a stop without it actually registering with the closest point on the.
Yeah, there is there is a tolerance to kind of answer the question of what the limit is. I don't know off the top of my head. We can get you that answer though. But like Scott said, it is pretty generous.
Yep.
Does it default like 5 kilometers or something like that?
Well, that's an in-app setting, so it'd be a little different. But I don't know what it actually is in Navigator because that's the that's the actual network itself in the MMPK doing that, and we played around with that tolerance quite a bit when we were building up Navigator to make it pretty forgiving if you were to drop a point just off the route. But yeah, we can drill into that. I can look into it for you.
You have a question back there?
Yeah, so when you did your first route, you set for the drill rig and it took you across the lake in the longer route. When you added your second and third stops, you went back to your original shortest distance route. So when you add a stop in a route, does it ignore your selection of that drill rig route and go back to like a default shortest distance?
Right. So the question has to do with when we did the first route initially, it was in driving a car mode, formerly drive time. Then we changed it to drill rig route, and it appeared as though when we added stops after that, that drill rig route settings were ignored, and that's not the case. I believe the actual bridge that it was avoiding.
Want me to turn it on?
What's that?
You want me to turn it on? No, it's on. Okay.
Was down here, so it is actually honoring that restriction when I put multiple stops in there.
Okay, so just like it took you around, a longer route, but now it sent you back to your original car route.
It's not back to the original car route. Here, I'll.
I mean, I see it said drill rig when you went to the settings, but when you had only the first stop, it took you across that lake and up and around. It was 28 miles then. And then when you put your Home Depot stop in, it took you back that way. And initially, when you first set it up, it took you sort of that way that you have now. So I was just wondering if when you just had the one stop and the drill rig came on and it moved you around, it obviously shouldn't take you on that road you're on now.
No.
The drill rig route was around the top. So I'm just wondering why you changed it by adding one more stop. Does it assume you're going to Home Depot, you're not going to be having a drill rig on the back?
No, I don't think it's that smart to know that, hey, you're going to Home Depot, you probably don't. It should maintain what's called the travel mode. So all those were travel modes, right, that Scott showed. Scott, if you bust open the travel mode dialog again. So these are all travel modes. Some of these you get just by default. So you get these in the Esri data set, and then he added a couple at the bottom to that custom MMPK. And what should happen is it should remember the travel mode you calculated with, and then if you were to like tweak that route in any way, it'll assume that you want to do that with the existing travel mode and not switch you back to the default one.
Yeah.
Every MMPK has a default to go with the first time you generate a route with it, but that's switchable. And then we tried to kind of remember that in the app, assuming that you're obviously not going to change your vehicle that much once you change it. Yeah, it's a good question.
Yeah, so, and then the one last thing that I did want to point out is that you notice as I built up this stop list, the stops were put in the optimized order. So let me clear this out and show you this setting within Navigator to optimize that stop list or not. So for some users who are just adding stops and not expecting it to put it in the best sequence for them, you can turn this on or off. I like to have it on and obviously put them in the best order for me. And the way that you get maps onto your device, as you can see here, I have a California map, Palm Spring map, a couple other maps sitting here locally. All that content's on my device. If I wanted to add more, I could go ahead and hit that plus button up here at the top. Okay. Just a couple notes of who we have seen implement Navigator and what type of organizations have adopted it. Today, I'm happy to say that we've had tens of thousands of downloads from the stores. We've had thousands of licenses deployed and purchased, hundreds of organizations. So. Natural resources, utilities, government, commercial even. And if you look at natural resources, utilities, I mean this is, and local government, even they have in common the need for using their authoritative GIS data in the field. So I think that's where we've seen a lot of success and the workflows meeting their needs. Specifically, Ray is here in the audience today. He's with the County of Pima, and we worked together on this story where they're saving almost $200,000 a year on mileage. So they did an implementation with their inspection, their home, they're newly built subdivisions and newly built building inspections. And the things that made Navigator appealing to them was custom data offline, the ability to work in areas where cellular data isn't always available. And they actually went through an optimization piece within ArcGIS in the back office, did a network analyst vehicle routing problem solve, where they solved to make the optimized routes for their entire fleet of vehicles. And then they integrated that through the use of app links, which Brent is going to show us in a few minutes. They basically connected to those stops from the back office. Similarly, the County of Atlantic, New Jersey, they did an implementation where they used network analysts in the back office. Their use case was for home meal delivery, but they created that URL scheme, which Brent again is going to show us, of how to connect through optimized stops created in the back office. And it's really been a great tool to allow them to have any driver do any route, not just somebody who's been around the block a few times and knows the area. No, a new guy can step up to the plate and actually do the work. So up to this point, everything that we talked about was using Navigator basically just by itself, using the app independently, and it's great. You can use the app by itself. Another way that it really kind of the usefulness is amplified is when it is used in concert with other of the ArcGIS apps, and especially when you're talking about apps for the field. Each app does a specific niche thing, and so they leverage each other quite well. And I think, Brent, do you want to have a couple words on that?
Yeah. Should I jump into my demo, or just want me to talk about URL schemes?
Up to you. Up to you.
I'm going to jump in my demo.
Okay.
If it's up to me.
Yeah.
All right. Let me jump over to. So yeah, I figured since it's a developer conference, I will talk about stuff that you developers can do. The first app, so I'm going to show all our apps and how they integrate with Navigator. This app is Workforce. How many of you guys are using Workforce right now? One hand back there, nice. You're using everything, aren't you? Try to.
A workforce project setup.
Okay, cool. Cool. So maybe you'll configure Workforce to integrate with Navigator. But I've gone ahead and created a simple project, assigned some assignments to myself. I'm logged in, and these are all the assignments I have. And in Navigator, you can configure what's called integrations within your project and integrate with apps like Collector and Navigator and all our other apps like Survey 123. So I've gone ahead and configured that integration or enabled it. If I tap on an assignment, I can see that the assignment is here. If I tap on that little the share icon, I get options for integrations I have configured. So I've configured Navigator, I have Survey 123, and I have Collector. But I want to show Navigator. So here, if I navigate at an assignment, it jumps out and just passes that location to Navigator, the location of the assignment to Navigator, and then automatically generates a route. So from there, I can navigate using that route. And what's also nice is Workforce is passing what's called a callback URL. So when I navigate through here and get to the end, it's going to actually call back and say, hey, do you want to jump back into Workforce? So kind of to complete that workflow. So I look at my assignment in Workforce, I use Navigator to navigate to it, and then when I get to my assignment in Navigator, Navigator's smart enough to know that, hey, chances are you probably want to go back into Workforce and make some notes and maybe start that assignment and complete it. So that's Workforce. Let me show you a Collector working with Navigator. So here I have a Collector project, or sorry, a web map in Collector. I have some features, and say I want to do an inspection at one of those features. Well, I can tap on feature itself, And again, in similar fashion, I can get directions to that feature directly from Collector. So this is doing exactly what Workforce was doing, passing the location of that particular feature to Navigator, and tapping on this, it'll generate a quick route to that feature. And in very similar fashion, jumping out to, and now this is the beta version of Explorer. Just let it load my map here. And here I have a mobile map package in Explorer. If I was to select any of these features, let me zoom in a little bit so I can get a better selection. Select any of these features. In the pop-up experience in Explorer, I can actually jump out to Navigator. What's nice in Explorer is we know you guys want to probably use Navigator if you have it installed, but if you don't have Navigator installed, well, you can use an app like Apple Maps or Google Maps. So you don't necessarily have to use Navigator, but if I was to tap on the Navigator button here, again, similar fashion, right? It's just passing the location of that feature using the URL scheme that Navigator supports, and generating a route on Navigator within the app. So let me clear that out. And then a couple other things that I'd like to show. So it's just a URL scheme is just a URL that Navigator actually recognizes. And did anyone go to the URL scheme session I gave? Okay, so you've probably seen these demos before then. I'm sorry for the repetition. But one thing one of our customers is doing is actually using some geoprocessing tools and some back-end logic to create PDFs for all the field crews every day. And they're emailing those PDFs directly to the field crews. They check their email in the morning, they open the PDF, and it would look something like this, right? So it has your daily route within the PDF, and all the field crews do is they just tap on that URL that's embedded within the PDF. Let me try that one more time. Didn't like that. All right, so they just tap on that URL within the PDF, and then it just uses that URL scheme to generate a route. So you can generate really complex routes. So this is Atlantic County, isn't it? That's doing this, the PDF?
Oh, the PDF method, yes.
Yeah, and I think we have use cases on that at the showcase area, which is already closed. But there's a PDF, and actually we reference it in the slide deck at the end, explaining their workflow, but what they're doing is using some of the network analyst tools to generate a pretty complex route for all their different field workers, generating PDFs and then sending those out via email to all the field workers. They open their email and just tap on that link, and it generates a route for the workers for the day. So that's doing it via PDF. And then one last thing, and I'll see if I can't get this to work, actually two last things. And this is Ray's workflow. I'm sure I'm butchering it a little bit, but you get the gist. Is I'm just hosting a web application here, and that web application is hosting the URL scheme. So let me just see what state Navigator is in. All right, doesn't have a route. Let me go back to that guy, and just like a PDF, it's hosting. Why does that keep? It's the rapid exit functionality we've been working on. I think that's probably it. It's probably maxed out, but let me try that one more time. Got to get that going. So this is just a web application running, opening the URL scheme. And again, that's the same route. I just host a web application. And Ray, is that what you guys are doing? Kind of the general gist of it anyways.
Yeah, I can give you the URL right now if you want to.
You really want to test my demo skills, don't you?
Download the Arizona map.
Right.
My MMPK was probably like 180 megs.
Right, and actually that's a good point, and I already have the MMP obviously downloaded and loaded onto Navigator, but a good feature enhancement we're working on, and Explorer already supports this, is the ability to reference the MMPK via item ID, and then it'll actually automatically download it if you don't have it on the device. So it'll download it the first time, and then after that it just opens it because it knows the item ID. So we're working on that. We have it going in Explorer, and it should be pretty trivial to add it to the next Navigator release as well. All right, one more. So it's just a URL. So what I've heard some people doing is just using a QR code to reference it. So let's see if I can't pull this off my computer here. So You see it's picking up the URL scheme. It's a pretty complex URL scheme. Tapping on it, there we go. So it's referencing that URL via a QR code. Maybe you want to paste that QR code, on the wall, by all the trucks, and the guys can just take a picture of it and get the route for the day when they have that QR code. And that's not only used with Navigator. I've heard it used with Collector as well. Get up and running with the right web map and just taking a scan of that QR code. So that's really Navigator integrating with all our different apps via the URL scheme. And really what it means to you guys as developers is you can integrate whether your web apps or maybe just a PDF document that you're creating based on your rules and your logic, but even your native mobile apps, and integrate it with our apps, and we'll call you back at the end of that route using the callback URL. So you want to jump into the slides now? What are we at, 3?
We're at 3.
Want me to talk to these? All right. So, I showed an example of sending different stops to Navigator, and you saw sending maybe 5 or 10 stops to Navigator, and it will sequence those stops, and you can actually even add a stop name, so you can kind of customize the user experience when the actual stop comes up. These are some of the properties that are supported in the Navigator URL scheme. So we have the start location, an optional parameter. So if you want to determine to start at a specific location, if you don't provide that, we'll just use the current location of the device. We have the stop location. So you pass in multiple stops to be able to reference a multi-stop route. You can also give it a name, like I mentioned. There's the callback and the callback prompt. Really, the callback is just the URL scheme of the app that you want to call back into after the route. And then the callback prompt is really what you want Navigator to say. So it's really a call to action that you want to come up in the UX after you're done navigating that specific route. And again, you have a Boolean property to be able to optimize the route. If you pass in multiple stops, well, we can optimize those stops on the device. It's optional, so if you don't pass it in or pass in false, we'll just take the order of stops that you pass it in. And again, you could specify a travel mode. So if you want to guarantee that it was using that drill rig travel mode, you just specify that in the travel mode property. And at the end, we have a GitHub repository out there, which has all this documentation as well as code samples on how to build this up, and some Python code, some Swift code, and also some Android Java code in there.
One thought here is that stop, that location of the stop. We had talked about how you can manually search. We support coordinates, supports addresses, it supports search by custom asset ID. That those same search methods can be used in the URL string. So that means if you built up your own custom mobile map package with your locators that are based off of your assets that you want to search off of, you can put that in this stop search string. Not only the lat long or the address, but also your own custom searches.
Indeed you can, Scott. Thanks.
You have a question?
Yeah, can you mix travel modes, so have like a trail associated with walking, so if you're doing like a driving survey or something, then you have to get out of your vehicle and walk and collect data?
So the question was, can you mix travel modes? So a travel mode is applicable to one route. It's a one-to-one relationship.
So if you just join separate routes with separate travel modes in that situation?
Yeah, so the workflow would be you'd use like one travel mode to get to a certain location, and then you would generate, I guess you'd have to generate a new route for the walking travel mode at that point. And it would have to use the same network too, so it'd be a little strange there. Can't imagine why you're asking that question though, Craig. Craig's doing a lot of work on some indoor navigation and just indoor GIS in general, so he's doing some pretty cool stuff there. So again, some implementation patterns here. We have, hosting a web page with app links that I showed. We have emailing or text messaging that URL scheme. That's something that you can also do. It didn't show that, but you can do it. You can build a custom app that calls a URL scheme. And these are all being applied today in the field by different customers, and really you can pass in anything within those stop parameters. And we've tested quite a few stops in the actual URL scheme itself, so it's pretty robust and can hold a lot of different information in that. So, summary.
Yeah.
Do you want to kick off the summary, Scott?
Yeah. So, I mean, just in general, you know, we talked about obviously data is stored on the device, so you can work disconnected. You get access to maps if you want to use the Esri provided maps, or create your custom GIS maps. Multi-stop optimized routes, so it's not just point to point, but multi-stop, supporting up to a large quantity of stops. And we can sequence them in the best order if you want on the Navigator device, or it will honor the sequencing that you define and pass into it. Integration-wise, works with Esri apps or works with your own apps. You can get it today on Google Play and the Apple App Store. Just out of curiosity, Windows. Does anybody have a need for Windows? You do?
Contractors using Windows phones.
You have contractors using Windows phones?
Yeah.
If Navigator was on Windows, you think you'd actually use it?
Well,
Windows 10.
and that would have to be, you know, we've got the licensing fee for it, so I don't know if they would go for that.
Okay.
And I don't know if we would want to even cost to give them that.
Okay. So currently, right now, Windows isn't on the roadmap, and that's the reason why I asked, to see if it is a need from you guys. You do?
But we're faced with the same thing, we can't even open the app because of the license holders. Which makes sense because you've got those pre-made street maps. I'm guessing that's where the licensing fee comes from, is to cover that cost. But if you're making your own TPKs, why is that an issue? We can't open the app because of TPKs.
Right, yep. So what you're pointing out is that if you bring 100% your own data, you still do need to get a Navigator license, a for-fee app, yeah. There isn't the option, if you bring 100% your own data, to just get the app for free. So what's next for Navigator? Well, pre-planned routes. So what is a pre-planned route? Basically, today you can create routes using Network Analyst and our ArcGIS Online services and Runtime. You can create routes everywhere across the platform. But what is the real mechanism to share that pre-planned route made in the office with that field user, basically operationalizing the route? And that's essentially the goal of pre-planned routes. And what you'll be able to do is desktop, server, online, using the standard Network Analyst tools, wherever you can create a route in those applications, save it as a route item, and then Navigator users will simply connect to that route item and be able to use it offline. The actual route geometry, the route that's created in the back office, all that rules, all that logic, whether it's barriers, whether it's some type of restrictions that they've created on that data, waypoints, to drag and drop it, those will all be honored too. And so you can imagine how this is, hopefully, you can imagine how this would be useful for an organization doing that planning in the back office, that optimization, and then actually needing to get the real route, not having it recalculated on the device to produce a different geometry, but the same geometry, working consistently, being able to update those routes more quickly, and reduce duplication, making sure that the same routes in both places. So there's a ton of stuff out there that if you have questions or need resources, I'd urge you to get a free trial today. If you haven't kicked the tires on Navigator, you can do that. Just go to the marketplace listing. There's a short link there. The case studies that we talked about with Piedmont County and Atlantic County are on our product page. We have tutorials and videos about how to create custom maps. And if anything comes up, let Brent or I know. with that, if you would mind submitting us feedback, let us know how we're doing. That would be appreciated.
And I think that's it.
And I think that's it.
Just have a little Kool-Aid slide there at the end. Yeah. So if you guys have questions, we'll be here.
Yeah.
With the plans to implement connecting to the map package as a portal item, are we going to be able to get some sort of notice to the users that they're about to download a huge chunk of data and they better be on Wi-Fi or because we're a BYOD solution in our environment, and so the users will find me.
Okay, we don't have that warning in, but we could kind of consider it for sure. What we do have is a setting in the app to only download on Wi-Fi to not blow up people's data plans. So
That's set by default, yes.
I think it's set by default to only download on Wi-Fi, and then you can kind of turn that off. Yeah.
When you asked that question, you were referring to the plans. Were you thinking of this scenario or what's in there today?
Yeah, I was thinking about the scenario that you was talking about that you're working on to be able to reference the map package from the full
Yep. If you do tell Navigator to download a map package and you don't have enough storage space on your device, it will warn you, and it won't let you do that basically.
Yeah.
Yep.
In the future with pre-planned routes, so you're going to create the routes ahead of time, publish it to the portal, and then on their phones they're going to access it. But what if they're offline? How does that work?
So the question was, in the future, with pre-planned routes, what is the workflow? How does it work when the actual field worker is offline? And it's similar to how it works today with mobile map packages when you're offline. So you have to be online to actually download that item and then get it. You can start using it when you're offline. So you'll be able to share those with both Portal and ArcGIS Online, share those with specific field workers, and then when they connect to in Navigator, when they open Navigator and sign in, they'll see which pre-planned routes are available to them and they can download them from there. But they would need connectivity at that point.
Will you guys keep supporting the current method?
Yeah, the current method, this is just an addition to the current method. So yeah, you'll still be able to, and it'll be based on mobile map packages, but these pre-planned routes will really kind of help and a layer on top of those mobile map packages so they don't have to build routes, directly in the field. Yeah. Other questions?
Pre-planned routes. We're targeting the end of the year. Yep.
Yeah, it's a timeline for that.
Another
Yeah.
question?
If I have, let's say, 20 areas, so I have to publish, every morning I have to publish services for workers to download.
So if you have 20 areas, every morning you would have to publish 20 services. Is this the pre-planned route workflow that you're thinking of? No. So 20 routes, 20 individual workers, 20 sets of stops, and those would be 20. You could either do that today through 20 URL schemes, or 20 stop lists formatted in that URL scheme, or 20 different items in your portal or in your ArcGIS Online org. But the thing is that with the URL scheme today, it's kind of up to you to format that stop list into that string. We don't really have out-of-the-box tools for doing that formatting. Ray wrote a Python script to do that, and so that's what others have done. And if you go to that GitHub repo, there's sample scripts of how to do that. What the pre-planned routes will allow you to do as a network analyst user, as a GIS analyst, it'll just be baked right into the out-of-the-box tools where you can say save as route layer, and it'll put those into your org. Anybody else?
Thanks for coming, and enjoy the festivities tonight. Don't have too much fun at dodgeball. And we are looking for players. Are we still looking for players? No, we're okay. Never mind then. I'm getting the no. All right. But enjoy the party, and thank you for all the questions. Really appreciate them. We'll be here closing up, so if you have more questions, just come on up. Thank you.
Thanks.